Chapter 15. After Evan. Rachel had me jailed the night of the murder. With this, I wasn't able to witness Evan's funeral. And I never get to watch how her lifeless body inside the coffin we both picked were lowered down to the ground. I missed it all. But how we planned it all this time made it feels like I never did. At all. I was there the whole time with her, doing things she can while she was still around. As Evan once put it, what we did was the rehearsals to a play we won't be around to watch. She with her death, me on my sentence. Robert tried to get me out of the prison, bringing the presence of his colleagues in law. But I told him it was no use. I've accepted my fate. This is where I'll rot for the rest of my days. I would remember Evan in every corner of this prison cell. I would remember why I'm here. I would remember the peace she should have. A peace I'll eventually find within me long enough to forgive myself. The days after that were passing over me like numbers on an endless game of roulette. It just keeps on going on. I was a player. And even though I knew I considered myself a winner because I was still around to play it, I was a grave loser all around. I lost the only woman I could ever be in love with. I lost my freedom. I lost all the reasons to keep on living. And I was the reason for these losses after one another. I'm not asking for forgiveness nor consolation. I only wanted to make Evan's wish come true. Even if it means losing her forever. It took me 2 months in prison before a trial was scheduled. It was raining the day it happened, making it difficult for us to get through traffic. I was escorted by 2 police officers, a handcuff on my wrist to my back. Robert followed after us, reminding the 2 to be gentle with me. Not that I care about it. Their touches were nothing to the pain I'm relieving each day. I stood before the court, the judge and the clerks eyeing me with disbelief. There was no time to gather witnesses. They were the only ones present in the hearing. I saw Rachel on the other side, looking down. I can't see her expression. She must still hate me. I don't blame her at all. You seem young, the judge remarked after the introductions. I feel older than I look, I replied. The empty courtroom were filled with uncomfortable coughs, inaudible murmurings. Robert was eyeing me from the corner of my eyes, his stares pleading. I'm not here to plead myself not guilty, Your Honor. I bravely said. I'm willing to serve my sentence for as long as it will take. I don't think you're in no position to grant yourself verdict. The judge replied. I know, I whispered. But I made a promise. I glanced at Rachel, who avoided my stares. Evan's brown eyes played in my mind, and I straightened my shoulders. I can die in this prison knowing I remain true to it. Rachel swiftly stands up crying from her chair and runs up towards the exit. Robert and Rachel's attorney asked for a brief pause of the trial, and the judge only granted them 5 minutes. Yet, it only took less than 5 minutes before Rachel and her attorney appeared once again inside the court. The lawyer whispered something to the in-court clerk and then passed it over to the judge. The judge's expression shifts in disbelief and disappointment, and grabbed the gavel in his side and slammed it forcefully on the table. Rachel had me released from the charges that day. Evan's journal. Dear Diary, I am not so good with writing things about what happened to me, but I felt Evan last night in my dreams. I went home a few days after Rachel decided to withdraw the charges, and Robert never once left me since then. I think he starts taking a like on my apartment, cleaning it, and making an office of himself in my desk. We don't speak. Not that there are things to talk about. I went out of the house a few days ago, and I passed over the places Evan and I have been. The coffee shop, the funeral store, the park. They have not all been the same since she was gone. I told her before that I can't go on without her anymore, but I made a fool of myself. I want her to be with me, to choose to be with me. But as she said, it's not the way the world works. Why does it have to be that way? Why does she have to be taken away, be gone forever? I'm not going to be all positive here because losing someone who chooses to be lost, to be let go, and them giving you all the chance to let them go, were more like a suicide I always wanted to do. I know I am selfish. I wanted for me and Evan to stay together for as long as we could. Only if she had lived longer. But so is the world. It's selfish. It takes someone, the only someone you cherish. And when you're all alone, finding your way out is the only choice. Sure, people would say, there's still more to this world. To live for, to actually exist for. But without Evan, without her, the more that they were all saying is nothing but an empty life. I hope Evan's happy, wherever she is. I won't keep this diary for long. Just like her, I have to let it go. I came by her grave the next week. I picked out a bunch of flowers at the same funeral shop we visited. The owner, the same old man who assisted us, surprisingly gave me the flowers for free. I never argued about it and gave him thanks and walked towards where Evan lay rest. There were no people around, and I am grateful for that. It was noon when I arrived. I stand in front of her tomb, her name beautifully engraved in its headstone. There were 2 more bouquets of flowers placed on either side, little strands of fresh daffodil adorn their beds. I crouched and gently brushed them away, and I placed mine next to her name. Hey, Evan, I whispered. The wind blows softly, and I knew her soul is around me in that moment. I did it. My voice breaks, and I wipe a palm on my cheeks. I let you meet your end. I straightened up later, and just as I am about to say my farewell, I caught sight of someone in a white dress approaching Evan's tomb. Rachel joined me in silence, a sunflower in her hand. I still feel her hatred towards me in this mere of a distance. She's grown older, somber, nothing of the Rachel I first met on the hospital. Evan wrote me a letter. Her voice came out low. I looked at her side. I I I couldn't finish it. She swallows hard, but I finally did. The morning the morning you're on trial. I closed my eyes. It was it was 4 full pages of her. I read that letter over and over. She shakes her head, a tinge of disbelief and tiredness in her voice. I wish she could have I wish she could have keep writing me pages like that forever. But no, she's she's gone. She won't. She seems light. She balances herself in her white dress, and I wonder if she's about to fall on her knees. I missed her so much, she whispered. She touched a hand across her cheek and sniffed, and without so much of a word, quickly strolled away. She must have run to a car she drove to get here. I followed her, and I found her in the car seat, her head tucked down the wheel. I pulled open the passenger seat and sat beside her in silence. I miss her too, I said. So much I could die from it. Then why don't you die? She blurted out with the same angry tone months ago. She pulls her face up, her hands gripping the wheel. I met her stares. I already did. I mumbled. The day I did it. We stared at each other in silence for the longest time before she grabbed me by my front shirt, hurting me, and I just let her, knowing it was what she needed this time, to put the hate out to the one who caused it. She slapped me on my face a couple of times, punched me in the chest, crying in agony, and I just let her. Tears kept falling down my face as she continues. She eventually stopped later, and her cries came out loud and sharp. She laid back to her seat, exhausted, and I pulled her into my arms. She cries on as I caught sight of the falling narrow leaves outside the car, and I wonder how Evan must be feeling, seeing how we've been devastated after she was gone. Rachel calmed down later, and I decided to drive her home. We rode in silence, both lost at the road turns and stopped. As I was watching it all, I suddenly had this feeling that life can possibly start over, despite Evan's absence, knowing it's what she would have wanted for us to do so, going on with our lives. I glanced back to Rachel, and our eyes meet. In that moment, I know she was probably thinking of the same too. We arrive at their home an hour later. I safely park the car and look at the yellow story house, one that easily reminds me of Evan. Thanks for driving me, Rachel said as I pulled up. I told her it was nothing. I fished out Evan's diary from my bag and thrust it towards Rachel's hands, and she didn't make no move to reject it. She flipped it open and saw Evan's familiar handwriting, causing a quick glimmer in her eyes. I gave her a weak smile and I was about to get out when she stopped me with a hand on my shoulder. I turned back, looking. Thank you for what you did, she said through her breaking voice. She was close to tears again, but this time she managed to dab it all up with a little courageous smile starting to form on her lips. Thank you for letting Evan experience the life that she wanted. She sadly kissed me goodbye on the cheeks and watches me go. A few steps away, I looked back on her and smiled, a knot tightening in my chest. I resumed with my walk out into the meadows, and suddenly my hands were all over my eyes, crying for how painful and at the same time beautiful that felt like. The words Rachel just said to me. And cry for how beautifully strange this life Evan had made for me.